Hello, everybody. Welcome to our new Minisode or shorter episode that we do about the books. Today it's me, Ligeia, hail Satan, and my friend Leraje.
Hail Satan.
It's only the two of us. Maybe next time we will have new voices. We will see. But as we promised, we are going to talk about sequel. I'm not sure if that's the right term for this book, but let's say it's a sequel to a book we already spoke about, and that was The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty.
Yeah.
So here we are.
I have been beside myself with excitement about, because you were so adamant that you hated Kinderman.
I know. I remember.
So how was it when you found out that he was the main character?
Actually, for you people, if anybody wants to know what we are talking about now at this moment, about me and Mr. Kinderman from the book, please go and listen to the Exorcist part, because you will understand why this question was asked.
Yes. Good point.
And so, when I learned he's going to be the main character in this second book, I was like, oh my goodness, now I actually have to read this, because I have to be honest with you. I was a little upset with the first book, his character did not really make that much sense to me. I could imagine the whole book being actually without him completely.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why I was like, why is this dude here? Why is he? And he's very specific. His way of thinking. But I didn't get that in the first book. I now understand, because this second book, the Legion, oh my goodness, I love him. I don't know if I have another character that I can actually connect this well with. So I am so grateful you brought this up, and I was really, really challenging myself. Okay, I'm excited. I'm gonna give him another chance. Or Mr. Blatty. Like, I needed more about him, because he's not a plain, like, oh, this is the detective John Walker. We don't care about him. He was intriguing, and I didn't get enough of like who he is and why he's saying stuff so in his own little weird way in the first book. But this second book, I love him so much. I will read this book again because of him and the way he thinks. So I don't know if I'm answering your question.
No, you absolutely are. It's I mean, it's almost like he's a completely different character.
Yes,
really.
I don't really see that he is the same person. Maybe because I know, and I look back on the first book, The Exorcist. I just know it's him because of his name.
The name, yeah.
And he's a detective.
But other than that, yeah. It
is a completely different level, this book.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just his character that's so very different. The whole book is so different in tone.
Absolutely. I don't know if I can say this, it's just my opinion, but I wouldn't even call this book a horror book.
No.
It was so many things, but it wasn't a horror book. It was creepy and disturbing, obviously. I don't know, I'm maybe saying everything in one place now, so maybe we can just start somewhere, like, to make sense, you know what I mean? Because what I'm trying to say is to summarize something we didn't even talk about.
Yeah. Well, I think that the fact that the main storyline is much more convoluted. In The Exorcist, it's very straightforward.
Yeah.
There's a little girl, she might or might not be possessed, and it's about everything that happens from that one central point.
Yeah.
And there are other little bits as well, like the relationship between Karis and his mother, and Karis and his religion. He possibly is losing his faith.
Yes.
But this Legion, I mean, there's about 2 or 3 very prominent storylines that are kind of like, they do intertwine, obviously, but that each of them alone could have been a novel.
Absolutely. That is very true.
I mean, you had the whole... so I should say at this point, Ligeia and I were talking about spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
And what our kind of like take on it is, it's quite an old... It's several decades old now, this book. So we will try our best not to give definite spoilers, but there are some things that we do have to talk about.
Yeah,
so if
it's
you 42
years
Legion
old.
And you're intending
to.
So there's the first storyline, I guess, is the apparent resurrection of the Gemini killings.
Yes, which is like if somebody is not familiar.
And that's how it starts off, really, isn't it?
It does. With like there is the beginning is very interesting, intriguing, because there is this murder. It's a child. He was just 12. He was black. And it was a brutal, horrendous death. Torture. Whatever we want to...
Yeah.
I don't want to go to the details, but it was horrendous. So there you have it. The beginning is there. Like, oh, you want to know more. And there are certain details about what was done to this poor child, to his body, that leads to the thinking process, connecting the dots, which at the beginning it makes sense. Okay, we have seen this before. We think we know who was doing this in the past. But do we say, like, why does it not make sense? Do we say it? The Gemini killer? You see the spoilers. I don't know if I should say it because...
I think we have to, really, because it's kind of... I mean, that's the main...
That's why I'm hesitating, twist. Like, do we? Because it was such a good thing that I didn't know, and now people, if you could tell us, I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
Let's just say...
Because of the time.
Let's just say there's a returning.
Okay.
Yes, there's that aspect. Oh, I thought you were talking about... Right, okay. I thought you were talking about the returning character.
Not really. I'm keeping that still, like, we will see where we get there, like, when we get there, like, what... I'm hoping you will say something now, I will know what to do with that one. But now I was talking about... Okay, I will just say it. The thing is, the Gemini killer used to do stuff like what was found with this body. But he was dead at this point. 12 years ago he died or something. So that did not make sense. Like, who is doing this? Because we know this guy is not here anymore.
Yeah.
So, spoiler, yeah. And... that was interesting. That was because, it's a detective story, I would say. It's mostly... But it's not just that. It's not like Agatha Christie style. There is so much more going on. I love it.
Yeah. And that's what I mean about the fact that there's kind of like 2 or 3 different storylines, but they're all kind of intertwined. So there's the initial... There's the murder, there's the whodunit aspect. But that also ties into the fact that this is a sequel to The Exorcist, therefore there is an element of possession about the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then there's the other thread with the doctor whose wife had recently died.
I forget his name. But
I can't remember. It's not Temple. That Templeman was the other one.
Temple was a doctor. Yeah, that was the. Well, no. Oh, what a good name, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I have the book here. I will, if you talk, I will find the name of this one.
Yeah. So there was that aspect, and it was kind of like that. You could see Blatty was trying to it was trying to introduce suspects for us to be intrigued by. And there was kind of like 2 or 3. But I think that particular storyline was very intriguing to me. You know, there was this guy who was obviously going through the most painful grief in the world.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
And Blatty's writing on that was almost painful. It was such a kind of like, it was such a graphic description of grief.
It was really touching.
Yeah. And it the thing that stuck with me when I first read it, and I reread it not long after what's his name?
I can't read it properly. Vincent Amfortas?
That's it. Yeah.
It's such a weird name. That's why I can't really... Amfortas. It sounds... Yeah. I don't know where he came up with, like, how... Vincent Amfortas. So, yeah. Sorry.
So, the first time I read it, I reread it again almost immediately afterwards because it's such a dense novel. I don't know if you remember, but when we did the minisode on The Exorcist, we sort of like talked about the possibility that Karras was Blatty, or Blatty had inserted himself. And I think he'd done the same in Legion, but he was Kinderman this time.
I was thinking the whole time.
Yeah, because there's this all through the book, and this is one of the other main, and it's not even a storyline, it's kind of like this constant examination and introspection that Kinderman has got about the nature of faith and how it manifests itself, and how there can be good in a world that's so bad.
The Karamazov brothers.
Yeah,
that part.
Exactly. Oh. Yes, I mean that was presented as Kinderman's favourite novel.
Yes.
What it means. From a kind of like, I mean, Kinderman is a religious Jew, isn't he?
Yes.
He's Jewish.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, and that is part of the Jewish faith, that kind of like examination of God, the nature of God. And those were the bits that I actually found most interesting and liked the most about the whole book, to be honest.
I just laughed. I'm sorry if I don't want to be misunderstood now when you said he was Jewish. But I just remembered the relationship when, like, he came home and there was his wife and his mother-in-law, and the mother-in-law, like, the whole family was Jewish, and she was using these Jewish words for, oh my goodness, and the carp in the bath. Oh, I can't. He was actually so funny. I can't even, because it's such a sad book and it's horrendous what's happening. But his humor, especially when he was, I would say, talking to Atkins, he's what is he, yes. Lieutenant or sergeant, whatever, sergeant, sergeant. But he was talking to him, but he didn't really need him there. He was never like waiting for anything Atkins had to reply to him. No, he was just Atkins, and he came up with these completely weird questions and statements, and these guys, they're like, what is now, like, why am I listening about how mammals are like growing in the womb, and how birds built their nests, like details about but it made so much sense what he wanted to say, but it was just weird places in the book. Not for me. This is exactly how my brain works. I was connected to this guy because, as you can hear, like, I want to say something and I go, like, I grow branches. I don't know where I'm at, and I end up at somewhere else. And it was just, but his mind was so beautiful. And the questions and the points he made, I actually had goosebumps. And I have so many notes, and I know, because the ending, I'm not meaning the last 2 pages, the whole, like, the ending of the book, it's huge, it's big, It's many pages, and I actually needed to stay silent and like I was stationary.
Mm.
And I didn't want to spoil that moment of finishing the book. It is just one of the best books for me. It's not for everybody, I would think. It's a slow pace, a book for people who like to think, who like philosophy, combined with psychology, with mystery, theology, the questions of good and evil, science and faith.
It's certainly a much more introspective book
Yes.
than The Exorcist was.
Yeah. It gave me a lot. I love this book. Absolutely love it.
Mm. Mm.
And I really will be coming back to certain points. If you can see, I don't know, I will show you, Leraje. We can see each other. Like, I have these little notes. And one here, because this one on the side is about Satan.
Ooh.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, is that the bit? Oh, I know the bit. I think I know the bit.
It is so adorable, and it makes so much sense, the questions he asks, and he's never asking anything in like you know, this confrontational way.
Yeah.
He is just being like a child, asking questions that make sense. I love him.
I mean, he is the kind of like ultimate detective, because he wants answers to, and you know, he's seriously going about investigating in his own mind, in his own way.
Yeah.
Or, you know, what are the answers to the big questions? And his kind of like his theory that evolution is Satan reassembling himself so he can go back to God. Yeah. It's kind of I don't want to give it credence, because obviously, you know, don't believe in God.
No, but it's such a new way of looking at it. Yeah, because he's constantly asking why the great God doesn't make any sense, because there is this happening. This child is dead, for example. Then you have all those patients at the psychiatric ward who are suffering. Those patients, like, there is a part of the book where you go through like what happened to, I don't know, maybe 8 people. You go through like a short summary of why that person is there, the age, what happened. It is breaking my heart. This is a topic for me. It's fascinating how we still don't understand why these psychiatric problems or pains are happening to us.
Yeah.
And to actually diagnose a person and find a way how to approach it, not to harm the person even more. This is absolutely heartbreaking. And where was I going with this? You see? But the question, like, why would that God make us like this then? Like, why?
Well, yeah, I mean, we come back to the brothers Karamazov again, and you know, that kind of if God, you know, and this was an argument put forth by Byron as well in some of, and William Blake in some of their writings. You know, if God is all powerful, then he can't be all good.
Exactly.
And if he's all good, then he can't be all powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, the two things are not compatible. But yeah, and it's a book of investigation, because you've got Kinderman doing his investigation into these murders, his own private investigation into the nature of God, and you've got these doctors who are, as you say, investigating the mysteries of mental illness and psychiatric disorders. You've got this poor guy who's going through the most awful grief, trying to kind of like make sense of that, in a sense, investigate that.
His story is so painful, because he is, and I'm still not sure, like, maybe if I read it next time I will understand his behavior a little more, because I was still not sure what was real or what was just happening in his head. It was
that those sections of the book were definitely, for me anyway, they were definitely the hardest to kind of. I mean, yes, the guy's grief was immediate and visceral, but at the same time, his motives and why he was doing what he was doing were not clear. It wasn't.
But maybe that's the point.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, when you're in that amount of pain.
I think Blatty did it on purpose like this. It should not be completely clear to us.
No.
Because then, it wouldn't be mental. I don't like these words, disorder or issue. I don't know what else to use, but you know what I'm trying to say. The grief made him feel and go to places in his, I don't know, unconscious mind or psyche or whatever, that they don't make sense to when you are in a state of logic, and
Yeah, no, they're not.
It doesn't make, and that's beautiful how he did it. It was perfect. It doesn't need to make sense to me. That's what's scary and also fascinating to me, if it makes sense.
Yeah. It's a very sad book in a lot of ways.
Yes.
I mean, there's a death part way through it, which did knock me hard. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
I think I do. I don't know how much you want to say about this.
Father Dyer, I was thinking of, and it wasn't just hard from the sense that I liked the character.
Yeah.
It was also hard in the sense that you knew how hard it was going to hit Kinderman, how difficult it made life for him. I mean, that sounds cold. I don't mean, oh dear, that's so inconvenient, my best friend's died. I mean, it's kind of like, it kind of like it compounded his ability to investigate internally his own feelings about his God.
And I just adored their relationship. It was, when you are really close to somebody, you can have such a relationship, like the way they spoke to each other. It was absolutely, it was precious to me. It wasn't like, oh, I love you, whatever, have a nice day. No, it was the opposite. It was so funny.
Yeah.
And that means they were so close.
Yeah.
So sad.
Yeah.
And also, do we want to go into that, what this poor Vincent Amfortas was doing? That was so... like, we know, we have said that he lost his wife.
Yeah.
Her name was Anne. And so... how do I say it?
Here there be spoilers.
Yeah. I don't want to... Maybe you try, because I don't want to make it sound silly or stupid, and I'm a little bit worried.
I don't know if I can.
Should we just leave it out? Maybe. You think?
I think we should. I don't know. I really don't know.
Let's say
it's so hard to judge.
He was grasping. He was trying to reach out to his memories, and he was still feeling this huge love, and he was missing her so bad that he started to try to somehow in his mind bring her back, or just hear her, or just to have some sort of connection, or maybe just the last connection with her. And he started doing something which we are not then going to say, which was heartbreaking to me again, because he was writing these letters and it was detailed, and I was crying, because I think you think the same about it. Maybe not. I don't know, but
it struck me his towards the end of his part of the story, that he, this was also a possession in a way, and he was possessed by the kind of like ghost of his wife.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily mean in a kind of, demonic possession.
No.
But it was almost like a kind of like, it became all-consuming to him. It was everything. Everything else was secondary.
How, the sentence is like, he lost his mind. I think in this case he did, because the mind was not his anymore.
No.
And the way he died absolutely crushed me.
Yes, that was not nice. I think he was the character that I felt most sympathy for. I know that might sound weird, knowing what it was at least strongly hinted at that he'd been doing.
Yeah.
But I felt very sorry for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what did you make of the Tommy Sunlight character?
I texted you when it came up in the book. And I have to say, how am I gonna phrase this? If you guys listened to the Exorcist episode, you might remember what I said. We were like talking about Regan and the ending of The Exorcist, and how the character of Damien died, or like fell on the stairs, and he was there, and there was the ambulance, whoever, they took him away. And I said something, and I remember your face, Leraje, because you were like biting your tongue, like and I was like, I know I said something now, but I didn't know how true was what I said, or if I just like mentioned something that might be a little bit true or something. And now I know. I'm not going to say anything. So it was good. I loved it. I loved it.
I think Blatty was very careful not to say this is definitely this character, but it was.
It was, and I was hoping for it, because I just felt like it has to happen. I would be so disappointed if something wouldn't have happened with him again. Like I was so happy. Like, yes, it's here finally. And also that was the actual connection to the first book.
Yeah.
Because otherwise,
really, the only connection.
Yeah. Otherwise, it could have been just not a sequence to anything. Oh, what a sequel? So I was waiting for that moment. Like, okay, this book is good. The Kinderman is here. Okay, where is the we need more connection to the first book. If this is, and then it came, and I was happy. I was happy, and I was happy it didn't happen on the first page. You have to go through like half of the book. I loved it.
Yeah.
What a tease! I loved it.
Yeah.
You need to deserve it.
So, bearing all that in mind, what we've just been talking about for the last 20-25 minutes, I'm interested in you revisiting your hypothesis about the abuse angle as it pertains to Regan after reading Legion, do you still think that's a viable hypothesis, or has reading Legion changed your mind a bit?
I don't know the story behind Mr. Blatty's motivation to write this book, and I think there is it's 3 books actually.
Yeah.
It's the 9th configuration book. I'm not sure about the order. I think the Exorcist is first. So it is still possible in my mind that there were maybe things true from what I said. It doesn't have to be. Maybe it's just my interpretation. And also, it's not the only interpretation that I have about that. It was just something that struck me as like, I see these symptoms of that. Or is it just my experience with my abuse that happens to me? I'm seeing it everywhere. I don't know. That can also be true.
No,
Fair
I
enough.
think it is. I mean, I remember saying to you when we recorded that episode, that nothing that happens in Legion invalidates that hypothesis that Reagan was a victim of abuse.
No.
And certainly, I the more I think about it, and the more I think that you could be right. But I also think that the two things don't necessarily have to be mutually exclusive. It could have been the abuse opened the door, and that's when Pazuzu entered. It didn't necessarily have to be all Pazuzu and no abuse, and it didn't have to be all abuse and no Pazuzu.
Pazuzu.
Bloody no. It could be a bit of both.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was kind of rereading it was a very different experience as an adult, because I read it not long after I read The Exorcist, so I was early mid-teens, and I did enjoy it very much, but I enjoyed it more as an adult.
Yeah.
And I got more out of it, I think.
Yeah, it was first time for me. I can't really see myself as a teenager understanding it, but that's just me.
I don't remember not understanding it, but I do, as I said earlier, I did read it again almost immediately after finishing it. And that was probably because I found bits of it difficult and wanted to have another go at it. Certainly the more kind of like the very sort of like the religious questioning that Kinderman does throughout the book, I think was more the bits that I struggled with as a younger person. Not necessarily. I mean, they weren't difficult questions, but they were kind of presented in a way, because Kinderman is such a kind of like random guy in the way that he approaches a problem. Like the things you were saying earlier about he goes on weird tangents about how birds build their nests and the evolution of the human eye and all this kind of stuff.
Oh my goodness.
I think probably as a teenager that was more difficult to process than a kind of like standard story about a serial killer possibly coming back to life. Yeah, basically. And when you were now talking about the abuse, if it is still possible, and all of that, I just remembered in this book there was the story of the 2 brothers. It was a horrible story. So, and that is clearly abuse, what happened. Yeah.
So it got me thinking about the position. What if the whole thing is a metaphor for many kinds of abuse? Like the Reagan was clearly, for me, like sexual nature.
Sexually abused, yeah.
But there are other sorts of things, and...
Well, Legion starts off with an act of abuse against a young boy. So,
yes.
So, yeah, I mean, it's I certainly think reading
that
both
could be
books
the
again
demon,
as an adult,
you know? Which it is. In any case, like, abuse is abuse. It doesn't matter if it's sexual, whatever abuse, it's abuse, and it's awful, and only people do that. Like, come on.
Yeah.
And it hurts people in ways that are, like, sometimes they can't be, not fixed, but, you know, they will never get their sanity back.
Damaged, yeah.
Forever.
Mm.
And then,
absolutely.
you know, then they have these demons. Nobody asked for them. And, you know, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrendous.
And again, you can say that was part of Kinderman's investigation as well. We talked earlier about the fact that Kinderman was trying to make sense of why there was evil in a world that was created by someone who says he was all good.
Yeah.
And you know, the kind of like background of abuse that runs throughout, particularly Legion, maybe more overtly than the Exorcist.
Yes.
Is kind of illustrative of that, in my opinion, anyway.
Exactly. That's what I meant. Maybe it's actually a confirmation about
could be
that.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm reading too much into that. Maybe it's like, you know, it has so many colors and layers.
Yeah. Well, we said last time, you know, there's no wrong interpretation of art. It's all relative to you as a person.
I'm sorry. I was looking for, like, his the sentences, the questions this Kinderman guy asks. Like, for example, he was just talking to this Sergeant Atkins, and, like, out of nowhere he asks, have you any idea why the speed of light should be the top limiting speed in the universe? And the Atkins guy answers, no. Why? I don't know, says Kinderman. He shrugged. I was just asking. I mean, I love this. And then he continues with questions about the case they're actually trying to solve. I'm like, what happened?
I think the kid... I know. That's what I mean by tangents. You just go... But it's kind of like, I think to a character like Kinderman, everything is part of the same mystery.
Yes.
And all questions, whether they be about the speed of light, or how the human eye evolved, or how birds build their nests, or how a young boy came to be crucified, they're all part of the same overall mystery.
Absolutely.
To him, I think.
Absolutely. So for him, it's not like he is actually, like, turning around and going another direction. It's still the same thing for him.
Yeah.
But at the first read, it's like, what are you saying? But I knew there is connection for him. It's just so funny.
Yeah.
It's so funny with the Atkins. And the last part of the book, when poor Mr. Atkins got married and he came to work in his tie, I couldn't stop laughing. I couldn't. So the tie was some like crazy flowers or whatever colors. And I'm sorry if I'm, like, going to directions we didn't want to cover, but, like, I was trying to find it. Yeah, so he was asking, am I dreaming? What are you doing? And this was a question about his tie. So he stared numbly at Atkins, who was standing before him dressed in a pinstriped suit and tie. Is this some joke? So, and Atkins says, well, I'm married now. Blah, blah, blah. And I cannot stand this, Atkins. It's strange. It's unnatural. Have mercy. Remove the tie. Atkins says, I might be seen. By whom? People. And Kinderman silently stared for a moment. Then he said, I give up. I am your prisoner, Atkins. Tell my family I'm okay and I'm being well treated. I will write to them as soon as my hands stop shaking. My guess is 2 months. This is because of his tie. You see, like, these moments are so precious. It's like, oh my god, I can absolutely see this guy. Well, whatever. It's a sad book. It's a sad book. But there are moments, people, please read it.
It is a sad book, but I think it's necessary to have those moments of comedy in them. Otherwise, it would just be... Otherwise, you get to the end of it and you just think, Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, but it's not that often that, for me at least, the humor is funny. It's very hard to do comedy that is funny. And this kind of humor wasn't like disturbing the book or what was happening. It wasn't forced. It's just so well done. It is still him. You know, sometimes it's like, oh, I can see what you did there. The author, like, oh, you were trying. Yeah, you can... It's just, you know, people. We are making books, so it can happen. Like, you can see through it. Here, it was completely perfect. I can see it. So cool. Yeah. What a book.
So we have done 44 minutes.
Yes, again. Minisode is a maxisode.
Minisode. God. Did you enjoy it more than The Exorcist?
I think so. Well, yes, not I think so. I know it. But also, to be fair, I knew the story of Exorcist. So, it was not new. This was completely new. I didn't know what to expect. But even though I am into horror books more than like detective books, this was awesome. It was awesome. And I think it gave me something very special. Which, like, The Exorcist was interesting. It was a great horror book. Amazing writing. Also, it's not easy to write a horror book. And this was about, like, the body horror and the possession and stuff. I can't imagine how difficult it is to find the words and to build the atmosphere. It's amazing how he did it. So, but this book gave me something really to be coming back to when I feel down.
Really?
It's weird. The thought process, even those like about the birds, it was so innocent in a way. So beautiful, because that is something that connects us, you know, humans and other animals, and how the little world we know works together in a sense. And sometimes it doesn't, and it's imperfect, and how beautiful that is. And I just want to be coming back to those, because for me that is very comforting.
All right, okay, I guess we better wrap up.
Yes.
Yeah?
So
all right.
Next time, thank you for your listening, and see you or hear you soon. And hail Satan.
Hail Satan.